Well, good evening, friends. Welcome to this edition of the Mystery Wine Blind Tasting. I am Neal, your host with this lovely mystery wine, which I hope you have at home. And if you don't, fear not. You can play along with us as well as we taste and offer our commentary on what is in this bottle and now in our glass. You can venture a guess as well. If you want to go back later and also pick up the wine here from the restaurant, you're welcome to do that and rewatch the video playing along as well. I know a number of you picked up the bottle. In fact, some of you today, a couple of folks I got a chance to say hello to and to help procure this bottle. So I know a few folks at least have this bottle and are intending on joining. If you are, by all means, please chime in. Let me know you're there and we'll get this started. I got occasion to do a little abbreviated mystery wine tasting. So it's been a double mystery wine tasting situation today. I was on a program run by Nikki Nellis called Industry Night. And she came out and interviewed Leah from Mullen Lave and Kiernan Slater and myself for her program. And we did a little mystery wine blind tasting. And the wine I picked was for the others to taste was a 2017 Tannat from Chateau O'Brien, which was drinking beautifully. So if any of you have that at home, enjoy it. It was special. Dean, good evening. Give my best to Bobbin and happy holidays to her because I don't get a chance to say that to her tonight here. Sarah and all from Pennsylvania, good evening. Welcome. Kathleen, Matt, are you out there? Matt picked up the wine today. So Curtis and Renee, I think, might also be joining us tonight with their friends. Wow, this is nice. I'm getting ahead of myself because of the aromas that were already jumping out of the glass just upon pouring that a second ago. So let's begin. For those of you that are on board, yes, welcome Matt and Kathleen. Excited to taste with you guys too. Awesome. Sorry, Kathleen. Yeah, just catching up to your posts there. That's great. All right, so what do we got? We've got a red. This is how it's fun to start, right? Going way back to the basics. It's not a white. It's not a rosé. It's not a sparkling wine. So it's red. And it has what by way of profile? As you swirl this and you start to see that top rim form and the tears stream down and they form those legs. These are fairly substantial, aren't they? They're pronounced and I would say persistent. Continue to use words that begin with P. Today's letter is P. This wine has some great viscosity. What kind of color are you seeing? How would you describe the color? Is it a purplish color, a bluish color? Is it a reddish color? Is that color vibrant and bright? Is it browned and tawnied? Is it one that you can see through, right? How's the opacity of the wine? Does it have a cleanness that's a clearness that you could read a newspaper through or see a faint shape through or nothing at all because it's so opaque and dark? Good legs. Yep, Kathleen, I agree. Definitely got some good legs, strong, flowing legs. Coming down for you in sheets, Dean? Yeah, I'm getting like they start for me in a sheet, but then there's forming for me a pretty substantial tier that is holding a form a little bit. So you've got a little bit more alcohol perhaps in this wine as a result of maybe a riper climate. It's dark and inky purple. Yep, purple, purple, purple. Yes, absolutely. Purplish to it. There's like a little reddish cast to the rim, but it's mostly purple. And a touch of that clear rim. Kathleen's noting there too. So you got that little rim meniscus that would be an indication too of maybe some higher alcohol. So purple, solid, rich, hard to read through. I mean, I can't see my hand per se through it. I can't see any language, any print beneath it. So I'd say it's pretty dark, deep, rich. It has a great viscosity. And so thinking about a thicker skinned grape variety that has good extraction here, probably more warmer climate than cool climate. And right off the bat, right, not Pinot Noir, right? It's more in the Petit Verdot, Tannat, Cabernet Sauvignon, maybe Rhone blend, Italian blend kind of camp. That's not knowing anything about what it might be by way of aroma and flavor profile, but just from the visual. So we're already off to a great start. Yep, no sign of brown brick. Dean, agree. So this is more on the youthful side too, and that's usually the case with these wines we're getting a chance to try. But 2 to 4 years old, 2 to 5, in that range. All right, let's smell this wine. And as you do, of course, looking for a few things: fruit, earth, and wood. What do you smell in the realm of fruit? Is this kind of dark berry fruit to go with that purple color? Is it reddish fruit? Where do you see this fruit coming from? Is it what state of its evolution is it in? Is it a tart, underripe fruit? Is it a fruit that's just sun drenched and ripe and juicy? Is it jammy fruit cooked down with sugar? Is it medicinal fruit? What do you see? Do you pick up any notes of earth? Brambly, berry, potential Shiraz call. Yeah, lots of berry. Darker blackberry, right? Ripe black fruit. Yep. Touch of menthol. Renee building the case for Kathleen Shiraz from Australia, perhaps. Black licorice and scents. Nice. Nice. Tobacco, mint. So that smokiness, that tobacco, Julie, are you picking that up in the way like tobacco leaf, like you crumbled a cigar or crumbled a cigarette? Or is this more like smoke aroma from tobacco? That menthol element referencing maybe a menthol cigarette, right? Pepper. So, I mean, Shiraz, going back to Kathleen's note there, Shiraz or Syrah, smokiness, a little bit of meatiness, pepper notes, some of that tobacco, sweet tobacco. We're now, by what we've said, if we don't also say we should consider Syrah or Shiraz, we've missed an opportunity. So that's now in the mix. We have to consider Syrah or Shiraz. Fig. So the state of the fruit is dark fruit and sort of that raisiny note. Like figs, even in their fresh state, have sort of that concentrated, sun-kissed point kind of profile to them. So we've got the earth the touch of the earth perhaps, but a lot of the wood notes too are being noted and called forth. Cinnamon, cedar, clove, spice, chocolate, all these things coming by way of charring that oak barrel, and that oak barrel expressing itself in those flavonoids in the wine. So dark chocolate, the cedar, the cinnamon, the clove, sweet tobacco. The nose is amazing. Yeah, Julie, I couldn't agree more, right? It's giving us a lot. It's very expressive. Mm. So real ripe, expressive. Let's taste the wine and continue to look for the fruit notes and the wood notes that we picked up on. There's a little bit of earth, but not quite as much earth as there is just fruit and maybe a little bit of that wood. Fruit, ample, dark fruit, figgy, black fruit, and the wood notes, the cinnamon, the smoke, the pepper, the spice, the cedar. So the chocolate, does that all come through on the palate too? Mm. Dean, the nose does open up nicely. I think everyone watching and participating understands what you're saying there. So it does. It's evolving a little bit as you're swirling this glass. The alcohol esters are carrying that aroma up. I mean, as I noted, even when I just opened it and poured, it came out swinging. and it is quite expressive. The tannins are smooth, so let's talk about the kind of composition of this wine. It has a tannic profile that is smooth and elegant. Its acidity is a little bit higher or pronounced. It's fresh, right? Where's the intensity of this wine at? Is it skim milk, 2%, whole milk? Where do we sit this wine in that spectrum of richness? Yeah, Julie, I agree. It has tannin. They're silky. It has richness, but it's not, especially in the latter half of the experience, weighty. There is that lift that comes from the acidity. So medium, it's not a medium wine, but it's not medium. It's not minus. It's not. It's 3%. Thank you, Dean. Yeah, it's got more to it than just a medium-based wine, and it is less to it than just a full-throated kind of big, chewy wine. And that's a good example, perhaps, too, of Shiraz. So it keeps Shiraz in the running. What other things do you taste? More wood spice Dean's picking up than the fruit. The acid's medium plus, yeah. A lighter finish. I think that's the acidity on the finish that keeps this brighter. There's a tannin that lingers. I'm still feeling it, but it's not as grippy tannin that kind of runs under the gums. It's just a thin, like powdery layer of dust on your tongue. Yeah, it's very interesting. Black cherry. So we talked about Shiraz. We talked about its profile from the beginning being fairly rich, probably a little bit of higher alcohol, a little bit warmer climate, purple-ish color, no real rim variation by way of age, but a little bit of a watery meniscus, also indicating a bit of richness and potential higher alcohol. We talked about the aroma of a ton of fruit, a lot of interesting wood notes in the way of spice and cocoa and chocolate and cedar, cinnamon. And then on the palate, there's a real fine tannin. The robustness is there in the first half and kind of dissipates in the back half, but also is perhaps belied by the kind of profile of acidity that is quite bright and quite fresh. It's youthful, not really meaty notes per se. Julie's not finding those. Anybody else? The peppery notes, the meaty notes. It leads me to the next kind of idea, or the possible varietals, and Syrah Shiraz is out there, of course. Dean's echoing that back. Julie's throwing out Alicante Boucher. That's cool. Great call there. What other varietals, if we were just to say, if you weren't tasting this wine and we started giving these notes, what else would you consider? Could you consider Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon? Would you consider a Corvina blend from Italy? Would you consider Sangiovese? Would you consider a Rhone blend, Mourvedre and Syrah and Grenache? Would you consider Pinotage was also thrown out earlier, right? And so from the Merlot side, Amy, I think, yeah, you could think about Merlot. The fruit is less like black and more red usually, but it's also plummy on the Merlot side. I don't know that we would get quite the same amount of that black peppery smoke. Sometimes you get currants too. There's a quality about the softness of the tannin and sort of the plushness of this that I think you could consider Merlot and should keep that in the running, or at least consider it. The Pinotage, Kathleen. Pinotage is a technical cross of two grape varieties, Cinsault and Pinot Noir, and it can come out with a more fullness to it and sort of a little bit more brash tannin. Cinsault has that sort of sinewy, muscular tannin. It's not usually a very rich wine, like so. It's in the 2% realm, but not impossible here. And sometimes you get a little smokiness to it. Sometimes you get a little bit of a burnt rubber or a rubbery note to it that I'm not picking up particularly here. Screw top would work for either Australia or Oz and Portugal. Yep. Yeah, less likely to find this kind of variation maybe in Italy. And I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't taste Italian, does it? It doesn't have a particular Italian. Like, could it be Primitivo, right? Could it be Nero d'Avola? Could it be Negro Amaro? Something Pulian, kind of southern Italian. There is that sort of fig, slight pruniness, maybe. But then we also, and I completely glossed over that. We talked about it in the beginning. There was this menthol note. And the menthol note is something that you find sometimes in California, sometimes also in South Africa, and quite a bit in Australia. So Australia kind of jumps forward. Portuguese, yeah, is more cork because they have the cork. And it would be a different kind of presentation. It could be Spanish too. Montserrat, Tempranillo from a warmer area. Yep. I mean, so these are great options, right? No pyrazine from Dean, so, and I agree with you there. So that not so much Cabernet Sauvignon. If you don't have pyrazine, that also indicates a possibility for Syrah because there's no pyrazine in Syrah. Primitivo getting a vote as a possibility if it were Italian. Like if we knew it were Italian, I would head towards something like Primitivo with this particular wine. Mm. Yeah. The acidity. Let's talk about the acidity. This acidity is pronounced, and it's one that almost overcomes the tannin, right? The tannin lays flat on your tongue in a powdery, sort of dusty way that lingers after, or it's perceptible after the taste is over. But the acidity is kind of what kicks in gear in the middle third, and then really hammers home on the final third of the experience. That acidity, when we've talked about acidity in the past, we've always referenced something like that belonging a little bit more to the old world, than the new world. That's not exclusive, and it's also not appropriate to kind of make a vast generalization that all acidic wines are old world and non-acidic wines are new world. That's not what I'm saying, but that level of acidity might take us into the old world. And so something like Primitivo from the southern part of Italy, something like Tempranillo, as was noted, from a warmer spot in the old world. Patricia, what is your guess based on what you're hearing all of us say? And Amy, great question. Does ripeness and acidity mean warm climate with elevation, diurnal shifts? So diurnal meaning the variation in temperature from nighttime to daytime. So it could be very cold at night and warm during the day, but you have this big shift. So you have this continual roller coaster experience for the grapes of shutting down at night because it's cold, and then warming up and getting going during the day, and then shutting down, which slows the growing process and keeps some freshness in the wine, generally speaking. Yes, generally speaking, that can be the case. It could be higher elevation within a warm place. It could be a warm site in a cool place. Generally, it could be the right exposition. That southeastern facing sun in the northern hemisphere, the opposite in the southern hemisphere. I'm getting a little bit more earth, a little bit more barnyardy element now that it is opening up, as Dean's noting too. More balanced. The acid is becoming a little less overwhelming. It opened there's about 45 minutes before we got going, so that's been about an hour for you guys. There's a meatiness now coming on hand. Playing the screw cap game though, so where does the screw cap come in? It's harder and harder to know that, as many places around the world are absolutely using screw cap stealth enclosure. Wanting to target where it's from, of course, Let's flip the script. Where is it not from? I mean, where are we pretty comfortable saying this is not from there? And we're just saying we don't know for sure that it's Italian, but maybe it's Southern Italian. It's not from the Piedmont. It's not Northern Italian. I don't. Maybe this is from Southern France. Maybe this is from Spain or Portugal. So it's in those realms. I don't think this is a Blaufränkisch from Austria. I don't. I don't know. It doesn't taste particularly Californian to me. I'd be surprised if it was from the States. I don't know that this is South American. Hmm. Like I don't think cool climate. I agree. Like I don't think it's cool climate. So it's not like an Alpine wine. Not Burgundy. Petit Syrah, Petit Verdot. Nice, Patricia. Those are good guesses for sure and worthy of consideration. There is a dry cured Brazola kind of meat that's coming out now for this, and so not Pacific Northwest, Greenland, or Eastern Europe. I appreciate the ruling out of Greenland. French Cabernet Franc. I would have said no definitively right off the bat relative to our descriptors, partly because of no pyrazine and also because there's more black fruit and that figgy note. I think we'd be more in the red fruit camp. And should we consider something like a French Malbec? It's purple. It's not real bluey, and there isn't that pyrazine note too. And so that that cherry is kind of chocolate covered, sweet candied cherry. South Africa, yeah, I think that's in the running too. I mean, it could be Syrah from South Africa. That's absolutely an option there, or Shiraz from South Africa, depending on how they label it. So the menthol bit is not as pronounced as it's kind of had a chance to open up and air out. I think Malbec would be a little bit more tannic. Yes, I think it'd be more front center, grippy. This is such a fine level of tannin that draws me back to something like Syrah, where you're going to have this lesser expression of tannin, but all that ample fruit. Patricia, that's okay. You don't have the wine. You're playing the game very well. You're taking the comments and offering suggestions that are right in keeping with what the profile is that's being built. So the profile, though, is that medium, right? We medium plus. It's not the large, kind of robust, full-bodied wine, and that might take us out of Petit Verdot character. Although like Virginia Petit Verdot could have richness, but not necessarily that super powerful finish and the really grippy tannin. I think we could rule out Grenache, Dean. I don't know that we could rule out Grenache necessarily as a part of a blend. Perhaps that's more about Mourvedre and Syrah, but it's not like a very Grenache dominant wine, I don't think. There's a sweet now note coming out from the wood, I think, too. There's like a sweet vanilla note. All right, folks, where do you want to go? What do you want to say about this wine? Where you're comfortable beginning to plant a flag? Much more lush this wine is than Linden's Petit Verdot. Linden had a little bit more structure to it, a little less of that plushness. I think that probably makes sense. I had Pit Jumper today from Slater Run, the 21 version of that, which has 10% Merlot, 5% Cab Franc, and 5% Cabernet Sauvignon to go with 80% Petit Verdot. And that wine has an elegance to it that's just pretty. That's a pretty wine. This is now a little bit raisiny, a little bit of that prune note, sun drenched. GSM Syrah dominant. Yeah, I think that's a good call. So maybe the Rhone in France with that, or southern somewhere, right? The Languedoc somewhere. I don't get the sense that this is the wood here in that way. I don't think this is as much Spanish, but Sarah, yeah, you know, Spanish Mourvèdre. As some Spaniards call Mourvèdre and Mataro. The Alicante Boucher was thrown out there before, remember? That's an interesting idea too. Okay, and there, Julie, right back with the Alicante. Yes, so Alicante Boucher, Shiraz from somewhere, maybe South Africa or Australia. Yeah, that's where I think I'm headed. Not 100% confident, but because of those kind of menthol notes, the chocolate color element, the cherry note, the deeper, richer profile, the silkiness. South African Petite Syrah would be pretty damn neat. I'm very, very curious to know. I think I'm going to be in Australia with this. It's not like the richest wine, so I'm not sure I'd be like in the Barossa Valley, but I maybe like the McLaren Vale or somewhere else in South Australia that has a little bit more freshness, but it has this very cool, kind of playful capsule, and I'm just wondering where the heck that came from. So let's find out. Amy's going to go Malbec. Cool. Malbec has some of these descriptors, no doubt. I think there's a decent call there for sure. I think I'm 70%, 75%, maybe you push me 80% okay with my call, but I'm not 100%. So there's absolutely opportunity for it to be something else. And I could make a case for all the other items kind of being thrown around now, other grapes. But I think I have to stay with the Syrah call, Shiraz call in particular. I don't think this is South Africa. I think this is more about Australia, but about to find out. Anybody else feeling the need to throw one out quickly, do so. So you're on record, because here we go. Oh my gosh. Way to go, Amy. Look at that. That is the Wavra estate from Mendoza, Argentina, Malbec. Awesome. Well done. Wavra estate's making some pretty fun wines. They make wine obviously in Argentina. Here, they also make wine in Long Island and make some really cool wines, sparkling wines. They make some fun ciders. They make a couple of really enjoyable white blends that are delicious. And so just nice wines. Malbec. Okay. I mean, I walked myself right past that and didn't feel pretty confident in that, but Amy, you grew up from 30 minutes away from Wavra? That's amazing. Oh, what a cool spot. We've gotten a chance to try their wines down here and enjoy them, clearly. Julie picked that out. They've got fun labels, and they're doing great things. So this is a neat wine. This is a wine that I think is a great boon for Malbec. Malbec has sort of suffered in some ways the same way sort of Merlot did in the 90s, where it became kind of ubiquitous and there was this sort of overdone style. But this one is ample, it's fruity, it fits into the idea of what people expect from Malbec, but it has a little bit more going on. It's a little bit of the dimension there. So just the distributor is Winebow. Winebow does Wavra. Yep, Julie's doing a good job. She's doing a fine job picking out these interesting wines. So I think we have some of these left. If you're interested in having a few more for the holidays, you can certainly pass by and we can sell those to you if you want. Um, that's a fun one to try. That would be nice. And this is a great kind of, the price point for sure, a great wine to share with family, and enough intrigue to be very interesting at the holiday table. And if someone's really feeling themselves and enjoying themselves, it's not so much that that you feel like you've been put out. So no black tea. Yeah, I mean, now you can find some if you look for it. But that's sort of that smokiness moving into tea that was there early. Huh. Fascinating. Well, that's a great way to end this year, 2024, in the Mystery Wine Blind Tasting universe. I will see all of you hopefully again in January with this as we pick it up in the new year. And I hope to see many of you in the intervening weeks before that as we ring in the new year and celebrate Christmas Eve here at the restaurant. We're open extra days throughout the holidays. We're closed on actual Christmas Day, the Wednesday, and on the first, New Year's Day, we close for a week. So we'll be closed for the week after that. But we are open the Monday and Tuesday preceding Christmas. So those are days we're typically closed, but we're actually open. So if you're off or you're with family and friends and you want to come on by, make a reservation and join us, we would love to see you then. We'll be closed, as I said, for Christmas, and then open between the holidays and closing on New Year's Day to give the team and everyone a little bit of a break for a week, reopening again on the 8th of January. So cheers, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all of those wonderful holidays to everyone who's out there, to you and yours. Thanks for making this a great year of blind tasting. I thoroughly have enjoyed myself and look forward to continuing it with you next year. That's fascinating. Great wine.